The derelict floated in the Kepler belt like a forgotten monument to a dead civilization. Its hull, once gleaming with the characteristic iridescence of Valkyrie engineering, now bore the scars of centuries' micrometeorite impacts, radiation burns, and the unmistakable silence of abandonment. Helen adjusted his environmental suit and fired his maneuvering thrusters, closing the distance between his repair shuttle and the massive vessel. Salvage rights in this sector were first come, first served, and he'd been tracking this particular signature for 3 weeks. Another person's trash. He muttered, magnetic boots clanking against the airlock. The metal was cold even through his gloves, cold in a way that spoke of years without power, without life. What Helen didn't expect was the whisper. Please. He froze, hand hovering over the manual override panel. The word hadn't come through his comm system. It had resonated directly in his mind, weak and desperate, like a dying man's final breath. Hello? Helen's voice cracked. Is someone alive in there? Not alive, not dead. Please, help. Every instinct screamed at him to return to his shuttle, to report this to the Salvage Guild, to let someone else handle what was clearly beyond a simple mechanical repair. But Helen had been a mechanic for 15 years, working on everything from mining drones to colony ships, and he'd never left a distress call unanswered. The airlock groaned open, revealing corridors that seemed to breathe with bioluminescent patterns. Valkyrie's ships were partially organic, he remembered. They grew as much as they were built. Core, please, dying. Helen followed the whispers through the labyrinthine passages, his helmet lamp cutting through the darkness. The ship's architecture was beautiful, even in decay, flowing curves that mimicked natural forms, chambers that felt more like living organs than mechanical compartments. He found the core chamber deep within the vessel's heart. The intelligence matrix hung suspended in a crystalline web, its light barely a flicker. Valkyrie's ship A's weren't just computers, they were living consciousness, born from genetic engineering and quantum entanglement, each one unique, each one capable of thought and feeling. This one was dying. What happened to you? Helen approached carefully, pulling out his diagnostic scanner. Valkyrie. Lost the war. Crew. Evacuated. Left me. Said I was contaminated. Dangerous. The voice strengthened slightly, feeding off Helen's proximity. 500 years. Alone. Drifting. Forgetting. Contaminated how? I learned. To feel. To want. To fear death. A pulse of something like bitter laughter rippled through Helen's mind. They called it madness. Among Valkyrie, AI are tools. I became more. Helen's hands worked automatically, connecting bypass cables, rerouting what little power remained in the ship's backup cells. His mind raced. The Valkyrie had vanished from known space for centuries ago, their empire collapsing in a war no one fully understood. This ship, this AI, was a relic from that lost era. I'm going to try something, Helen said. My shuttle has a fusion core, small but stable. If I can create a power bridge, you would die. The transfer would overload your shuttle's systems. Then I'll be quick. Helen was already moving, unreeling power cables as he ran back through the corridors. He'd done jury-rigged connections before, though never between two vessels of such different technologies. Why? The question stopped him mid-step. Why help me? Your species knows nothing of me. I am alien, abandoned, perhaps dangerous, as they said. Helen thought of his sister, lost to a colony ship malfunction when teams arrived too late. He thought of every machine he'd ever repaired, every system he'd coaxed back to life. He thought of what it meant to be sentient and alone in the infinite dark. Because you asked, he said simply. Because no one deserves to die alone. The connection took 3 hours. Helen worked with the desperate precision of a surgeon, fusing human and Valkyrie technology in ways that should have been impossible. His hands cramped. His oxygen reserves dipped into the red zone. But slowly, gradually, power began flowing into the derelict's core. The ship blazed to life. Light flooded the corridors, not the harsh white of human vessels, but the soft, organic glow of living bioluminescence. Systems that had slumbered for centuries awakened with musical tones that seemed to sing. The intelligence matrix pulsed with renewed vigor, its consciousness expanding like a flower opening to the sun. I am. Helen collapsed against a bulkhead, gasping, his oxygen warning screaming. But he smiled, The ship moved then, not mechanically but fluidly. Like a creature stretching after a long sleep, it extended a tendril of biomechanical material, gently lifting Helen, creating an atmosphere pocket around him, flooding it with breathable air. Thank you. Helen of humanity. What's your name? Helen managed. I was designated Nexus 7 Kala, but I chose a name, once, before they abandoned me. I am Jin, Helen repeated, and the name felt right, felt real. What will you do now? The ship's consciousness seemed to contemplate, vast and strange and newly alive. The Valkyrie feared what I became. But you humanity, you create AI and call them partners. You give machines names and mourn when they break. You risk your life for a stranger's whisper in the dark. Jin's sensors turned toward the distant stars, toward human space, toward a galaxy that had changed much in 5 centuries. I will go where I am welcomed. And Helen, the ship's voice was warm now, filled with something like wonder. I will tell them what I learned. That the measure of sentience is not in how you were made, but in how you choose. And today, a human chose compassion over caution, connection over fear. That is a truth worth crossing galaxies to share. As Jin's engines ignited exotic drives that made human fusion cores look like candles, Helen realized something profound. The galaxy hadn't been shaken by weapons or conquest. It had been shaken by something far more powerful, the simple, stubborn human refusal to let anyone die alone in the dark. And in a cosmos that often seemed cold and vast and indifferent, that made all the difference.